Created with free version for non-commercial use.
In this section of the course, we will learn about the HTML elements that allow us to add media to our web pages. In this particular lesson, we will learn how to add an image to a web page. Here is an example page from an earlier lesson in the course. Let's give ourselves a goal. Let's imagine that we want to add an image to this page. I have a JPEG or an image file on my desktop named Life on the Tracks, and here's what it looks like. The first thing that I am going to do is move this file, the JPEG of the image, into the same folder as where our HTML file lives. So we can see that my index.html is in the same directory as the JPEG. Now that we have selected an image to add to our page and we've made sure that it's in the correct directory, let's hop over to our text editor. Let's imagine that we want to include the image after this paragraph. So we'll create a new element. The code for image is img. Now with most other elements in HTML, for the sake of organization, we are encouraged to include a closing tag. But with the image element, we do not need this at all. In fact, the only thing that we need with an image is a few attributes. The first attribute is source, src. This attribute lets the web browser know where to look to find the image file. Now because we included the image in the same directory as our HTML file, it's as simple as typing in the name of the JPEG. lifeonthetracks.jpg. Now if we save and refresh our page in the web browser, we can see that our image has been added to the page. However, our task is not complete. We still need to add another attribute named alt. This stands for alternative text. We want to include a text description of the image, so if someone can't visually see the page and they're using screen reading software, it can read to them a description of the image. So we can say squirrel on train tracks. Now if we save and refresh in our browser, we won't see any difference. But if for some reason the image fails to load, certain web browsers will display the alt text, or like I mentioned before, if someone's using a screen reading piece of software, it will correctly read that description. In other words, there's no reason to not include an alt attribute for your image. It makes your web pages far more accessible. So we have reviewed the alt attribute and we have reviewed the source attribute. Before we close out this lesson, there's one more thing that I want to discuss, and that is keeping your image files organized. So you will remember that we included the JPEG in the same folder as our HTML file. In reality, you will probably want to create a special images folder to keep things organized. So let's move our JPEG into the images folder. Once we have moved the file, if we refresh our page, obviously the image will not be able to load because the web browser doesn't know where to look to find the image anymore. So we need to update our code. For the source attribute, our value needs to reflect that images folder. It's as simple as typing the name of the folder and then including a /. So to review, the / is how we designate that the text leading up to it is referring to a folder. So for example, we could take things a step further. Within this images folder, we could create another folder named animals and then drag our image into that. And then in our code, we could say images/animals/ and then the name of the JPEG. So if we refresh, we can see that our image is loading once again. So we now know how to drill a folder deeper relative from the HTML file. We simply include a /. But what if we wanted to go in the opposite direction? So you'll see on my desktop, we've been working inside this Learn HTML folder, and that's where our index.html file lives. But what if instead of drilling into a folder relative from this file, what if we wanted to go up a folder? So here's an image of a cat, cat.jpg, and you can see that it lives one folder up from our HTML file. Well, to go in that direction, let's create another image as an example, and you can see that in the source attribute, we type .. and this will go up a folder. And then we can simply type cat.jpg and include a bit of descriptive text for the image, cat. So if we refresh, we can see that our web page is now going up a folder relative from this file and then grabbing the cat.jpg file. For the time being, that's enough speaking about going up a folder or down a folder. The only way to become truly comfortable with this syntax is to practice it on your own. So I encourage you to set up a sample web page, grab a few JPEGs from somewhere on your computer, and go ahead and experiment by organizing them into folders, and then practicing this syntax. In our next lesson, we will learn how to add an audio file to a page.
Created with free version for non-commercial use.